Hi, I'm Laura Yitkin. I'm a certified divorce financial analyst, also known as a CDFA, practicing throughout California. My website is theoptionslady.com. I'm here today with Kelly Myers, who is a certified divorce coach, a mediator, and a co-parenting specialist. And today we want to talk about some of the emotional and financial issues surrounding custody of your children when you deviate or want to deviate from 50-50 custody. Kelly, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, this is a difficult topic because it's really emotional. I can relate. When I went through my divorce, I had a 6, 8, and 10-year-old, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and it was really difficult to think about having to give up time with my kids.
I hear that a lot. I mean, so many of even the moms I work with who have teenage kids, not even small kids, feel the same way. And dads do too, by the way. A lot of dads fear having to leave the house and not seeing their kids too.
Yes. I think the other issue that crops up when we're talking about custody, and if I can for just a moment, I will just want to say I don't like to use the word custody, and here's why.
Okay,
We only talk about custody when we talk about prisoners and children of divorce. So I
interesting.
like to talk about what it really is and how are we going to share time with our children and how are we going to make decisions.
Timeshare. Timeshare is the term we use.
Yeah,
Excellent.
exactly. Um, so the other issue that tends to come up is typically in families, it's divide and conquer, right? One parent may take on more of the care of the children, and the other parent may take on more of the financial responsibilities for the
And
family.
earning, working long hours to earn the income.
And so when we start to look at children's time as a commodity, and we're starting to put percentages on it, right? Suddenly that parent that managed more of the care goes, well, he or she doesn't know how to do this. And they don't do bedtimes, consistently, and the food that they're feeding the children. And you know what? I want sole custody.
Mm,
I think it's important for my children.
Yep.
Get it. I absolutely get it. That can be a very, very costly venture that usually ends up in failure.
hmm
So maybe we can spend a moment, Lori, kind of level setting.
Sure.
In the state of California, the courts lean toward a more equitable parenting arrangement, which typically is a 50-50 arrangement. And they don't look at who was the primary caretaker, who did all the work, who did all this. The things they look at is safety of children.
Mhm.
It's really the primary thing is unless there are safety issues for the children or unless there's been domestic violence issues, the courts again lean toward there being more of a 50-50 arrangement.
Agreed.
So all of those things around, this parent doesn't do it the right way or doesn't pay attention to the kids, doesn't emotionally support the kids, isn't there for them.
Mhm.
All of those things, which I hear and I get, uh, they're just not going to play when it comes to the legal system. So the sooner you understand that, the better decisions you can make. So, Lori, since you're the financial expert, maybe you can talk about some of the pitfalls of not knowing the realities.
Oh gosh, I just see it so often, even with same-sex couples. I work on a lot of lesbian divorces, and it's the same thing. I'm the one who had the baby. I mean, it's always, honestly, because I do so much work in the mediation setting. Most of the time, the parents really want as close to 50-50 as possible. But of course, as you mentioned, there's lots of times they don't. And what I have found is that the most costly court exercises in terms of a litigated divorce is when people have move-aways. What does that mean? They want to move outside of the county where their ex or where the other parent lives. They want to move out of the state. They want to move out of the country. And those are going to be people will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees on this issue. So, as we know, sometimes people conflate the timeshare with the child support financial calculation. Well, if he gets 60% or 40%, well, then it's the child support's going to be this or it's going to be that. So I think one of the things that I love to do is when I'm working with a client, when they hire me as their CDFA, is to run guideline spousal support, looking at all different assumptions. What if you work a little more? What if it's 60%? What if it's 50%? Is this really a material impact? Are there going to be other assets in the divorce, ways to fill in the financial gap rather than placing this solely on this guideline child support calculation? Because
This
you're conflating
percentage.
two topics.
Right. And focusing on percentages, I think I always encourage my clients to think bigger than a judge,
Mhm.
bigger than a judge, right? And I think that working with someone like you can really help people get creative around how to manage these percentages and the real life realities that the percentages do equal child support. Like there's no way around that,
They
right?
do, but there's also tax impacts that the guideline calculator is smart, no matter which software you use. It's really a tax program. So if one parent is claiming child tax credits, well, then there's no arbitrage situation here. If somebody's getting a tax benefit and paying less tax, then they're going to get less support. I mean, this evens out. So let's run the numbers. If you have 5% or 10% more timeshare, is this $100 issue? Is it a $50 issue? Is it a $2,000 issue? Let me give you that information.
Yes, I think that is so important so that people really understand, what am I really advocating for here, right? Is it worth fighting over $50? Is it worth fighting over $500? Again, it's different for everybody, and I want to be
Absolutely.
clear on that. But knowing what it is, the reality of really what it is that you're negotiating for or fighting over, sadly, I think it is important. Because I will often see, I've had clients who, before they came to me, spent 50,000 or more trying to get an additional 10, 15, 20% in custody. And at the end of the day, they're spent more on attorney's fees and professional fees than they would actually get in child support. And I think,
Absolutely.
again, these percentages, these timeshare things that the courts kind of force people into, we can get creative in other ways. There's other ways to spend time with your kids and to create those connections than whether or not they're laying their head down at night, in your house. So I just want to just kind of tease that a little bit, that there are ways to create that connection outside of that percentage.
But I also seen that works with parents who really can be, I know it's hard to be patient. I know it's hard to be forward looking when you're in the moment, but life circumstances change, the timeshare may change, over time based on who's working, the different conditions, all that kind of stuff. And I want people to understand that child support is always modifiable. Now, there are parameters of how much circumstances need to change before you can ask for modification. But I feel like when people are negotiating this whole timeshare and child support amounts, they're thinking this is a one and done. It is not one and done.
You're right. You're absolutely right. As the situation changes, I will often tell my clients, it's really important to have a comprehensive parenting plan while you're going through this process. But just as if you had a small business, right, and you created a business plan for your business, that business probably wouldn't succeed if it didn't evolve and change as the business needs change.
Right.
And your children's needs are going to evolve and change. And your parenting plan and how you are parenting these children together needs to grow and evolve with them.
Absolutely. The other thing from a financial standpoint is that when I work with a parent who is receiving child support and sometimes also receiving spousal support, this money is going to end at some point. Your children, unless you have a special needs child, when they are done with high school or turn 19 or turn 18 in certain stances, that goes away. Or if you have two children, you're going to get less later when one child ages out. And so it's really important, again, to be forward-looking. And even if you are receiving child support through the settlement, you've got to be thinking, what am I going to do to change my career or increase my earning potential, even if I was a stay-at-home parent? People hate it when I bring this up. I say, I'm like a cold shower on you. You paid me to be a cold shower. And you're going to get used to a certain budget, certain needs and expenses. And if you don't have a plan to replace the income you're getting now from your ex-spouse, you're going to be in a whole world of hurt. And that is the biggest financial regret I hear from folks. I wish I had started earning income earlier.
I think that is such an excellent point. And I will often have these conversations with whatever parent was the manage more of the care of the children, and they want to maintain that access to the kids. And we have to be addressing what is the potential cost to you in doing that. Yes, you may get the kids 75% of the time. What does that mean you won't be able to do, and in regard to your future planning, and how is that going to impact your children if at some point now they've grown and there's no more child support and you haven't created a strong financial base or opportunities for yourself? What does that do to them, because they're going to be worried about you, right?
And you may have to rely on your children financially, and
Exactly.
you don't want to have to do that. It's a very difficult issue, because also I'll hear from a stay-at-home parent, well, I can't earn much and childcare will cost more than what I earn. But that is such a short-sighted thing, because then you're going to be in your late 50s and you will have no skills, no earning capability, no future income potential. So that's what scares me. And this, I'm supposed to be comforting folks, because they're my clients, but it scares me when I have a client who needs really, I mean, this is where a certified divorce coach like yourself comes in to help them see that future vision.
Well, I think what you've identified here is that this issue alone, just around timeshare and decision making with kids and child support and all that, it's got a lot of tentacles. It's very complicated, and I can't stress enough that this is an area where getting professional guidance is critical. It's critical for you to have a good outcome, so be sure to consult with people who can provide good guidance on these fronts.
Absolutely. So Kelly, where can folks reach you?
My business is First Steps Divorce. So firststepsdivorce.com. And once you're on my website, you can schedule a free consultation. I do believe that just being able to speak with somebody like me or Lori just for a little bit can take kind of some of that uncertainty and that fear down and give you just a little bit of information that helps you move forward. So I encourage you all to
Absolutely.
take advantage of it.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Kelly, for being with me today.
Thank you.